All right, we're ready when you are. All right. Sounds good. Well, here we are. We got Golden Tate in the house. Thanks for coming. Very first guest. Super excited to have you. For people that don't play football, how would you describe yourself? How would you introduce yourself?
Okay, so do you want me to introduce myself like as a football player or just
Yeah, as a football player, let's do
okay?
that.
As a football player, if you don't know anything about me, I am a wide receiver. My combine number was I was 5'10" and 1/4. I ran like a 4.41, which is pretty fast. And I was, I don't know. I went to Notre Dame, played 3 seasons there, entered the NFL draft in 2010 early. I was the first ever Biletnikoff winner from Notre Dame, which is pretty much the Heisman for the receivers specifically, and was drafted in 2010 in the second round, the 60th overall pick by the Seattle Seahawks by Pete Carroll, who had just left University of Southern Cal, and as a Notre Dame Fighting Irishman, we played USC every single year from dating back when they had like leather helmets and stuff, and uh, played there for 4 years. My final year, my contract year, I was fortunate enough to win a Super Bowl. We beat the snot out of the Denver Broncos in Super Bowl 48 in MetLife. Then I went into free agency, perfect timing, by the way, and signed a 5-year deal with the Detroit Lions. Played 4.5 years there. Got traded my contract year to Philadelphia Eagles the year after they won the Super Bowl. Had decent numbers, and then finished my career in New York with the Giants, where I signed a 4-year deal, played 2 of those years, and then that was kind of it.
Well, that's quite the introduction. If you ask me, I would just say, yeah, I'm DJ Young and I play some pickleball.
Which is cool too, because
Yeah.
now I'm looking up to you.
Yeah, but no, it's funny. But for somebody like me, I'm from Spain, right? So football to me looks a little bit differently, right? It's played with what we call it soccer here, but it's played with your feet mostly instead of your hands. Uh, so for me, basically, I didn't grow up with football. I never really learned. So if you had to tell me what a wide receiver does, like what was your job as a wide receiver in football?
I had one of the cooler jobs, I would say, and one of the more glorifying jobs, and that was catching the ball and trying to score touchdowns. And that's our scoring system. Touchdowns are worth 6 points, and then you have an opportunity to kick a extra point attempt, which is another point, or you can go for 2 points, which is the offense comes back out. But I caught passes. I had the fun job. I got all the attention and had some pretty phenomenal years. One year I had 99 catches, 1,300 yards. I went to my first and only Pro Bowl, which was awesome. But yeah, I got the ball. I played all what we call it's offense, and I caught the ball. And if I were to place you in a position in the football world, I would probably put you at tight end on the offensive side.
And what does a tight end do?
A tight end is almost like a hybrid between a receiver and an offensive lineman, if that makes any sense. And the reason why I'm saying that is a tight end is usually going to be attached to the line of scrimmage and blocking a fair amount, but also with the capability of running a route and catching the ball. So you'd be like Travis Kelsey, pretty much.
Okay, sounds good. So how big is somebody like Travis? So I'm 6'2", 220. I'm not that fast, but I'm decently strong. So how big is somebody like Travis Kelsey?
There's a pretty wide range, I'd say. Like you have some guys who are like 6'7", and you have some guys who are like 6'2". You would probably need to gain I would say probably at least 15 to 20 pounds.
Hmm.
Um, but there are some tight ends that are on the lighter side that are more so like they're more receivers than blockers. And so you got to find that balance. And it
Okay.
depends on like what the offense needs from you. Like if they need a blocking tight end, they're probably going to get someone who's a little bit taller, probably around a 250, 260 range that, doesn't move as well. But if you go to like a Shanahan type of offense, which is where the NFL is moving, they're looking for these hybrid guys who are listed at tight end that can also go out there and be a receiver very effective and create matchups.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I get what you're saying. So I would say, from what I know from football, um, the quarterback gets kind of like the most of the fame, right? Because they probably had the hardest job
And all the money.
and all the money. Yeah. But you're kind of like what, like their second hand? Because if you're the one catching, right, you're basically their person. I would
Yeah.
imagine.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. So yeah, the most important person on the field is typically the quarterback.
Hmm.
And the quarterback, the reason why they get paid so much money is because they have to go out there and understand what each person on their team is doing and also understand what the defense is trying to do to them, all while knowing like you have potentially 7 to 8 guys every single play trying to tackle you. And I need to be able to figure it out quickly. You dang near can't even think. It's just figure it out. Uh, I was, like I said, a receiver, and so I was an outlet for him to throw the ball to. And I specialize in the slot, which is not on the outside running routes, but more so in the middle of the field. So when you get zones and different type of matchups and blitzes, I'm trying to be available so the quarterback doesn't get hit too quickly. So it requires me to be a smart player and have a really good feel for what the quarterback expects from me and where he expects me to be. And it's more so a field position a lot of times. I have a lot of option routes where I could sit it down here in this spot, or I could keep running out or in or up the field. And that's when, being smart and understanding coverages came into play. So I always took a lot of pride in being the security blanket for the quarterback because as I got older, I just knew where the holes were. I knew where I needed to be, how I had this body clock where I knew, okay, I need to cut this route off because I just feel like he's got pressure on him. He's about to get sacked and he's looking for it. He's waiting on me. So just kind of having a feel.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, so I guess my next question after that would be, how much, how many of the plays, what percentage of your plays on the field has to do with something that you guys already had practice a bunch in practice with your team? And how often are you guys just running plays on the go and you have to kind of just figure it out?
For me, it feels like the game is always completely different than how it feels in practice.
Hmm.
In practice, they try to give you these tough looks and they try to give you these looks that the play should work, but it seems like it rarely happens the way you draw it up in practice. And that's the chess part of the game.
Yeah.
You can't, these guys are being paid as well to run the scheme that they are really good at. And, to practice that, we have practice squad guys who are trying to simulate the look that we're going to get this, following Sunday. So it's tough for one, but just understanding the fundamentals of coverages and watching the film to find whatever edge I can find worked hugely on Sundays for me. But I can tell you, there's been so many times where I've gone into a game thinking like, okay, I'm about to go crazy this game. This is a great matchup. The coaches have a ton of stuff drawn up for me. And then the actual game comes and, you know, I don't get my first catch until like the third quarter. And maybe it's for 7 yards, but a first down and it helps us win. But the numbers that I expected to have are not there, and the reason why, because in order for a receiver to be successful, you got to have a quarterback who understands when and where to get you the ball, and to be on time and to place the ball. You need an offensive line that can hold up long enough to so the quarterback can get you the ball. Because if they don't hold up long enough, then the quarterback has to get outside the pocket and scramble, and I'm not even done with my route. And so my fate is in a lot of other people's hands,
Hmm.
which makes it tough. So, and to throw the cherry on top of that, some of my routes were designed for a certain coverage, and then they don't run that coverage, so it's like kind of a dead route. It's like, dang it. So it's a lot of chess out there as well, along with like stuff that I can't even control.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, especially, and it happens in pickleball a lot, which is what I relate to. It's you do all these drills, you practice every day, you even do rec games to figure out certain angles, certain patterns, and then you go into a match, you play some people you maybe never played, and you just never ever get the looks that you want. And it seems like a lot of the times when you're playing a pickleball match or, probably also football, it's not so much about doing the things that you're good at, but it's doing the things that you know are going to make your opponent uncomfortable. So how much of that would that relate to football?
A lot,
Yeah.
a lot. It's look, and that's why you see in sports where a team is a huge favorite, but the other team finds a way to beat them because they had a better game plan or because they were able to execute a little bit better. Now, in pickleball, what I'm still trying to learn and trying to figure out is your game plan almost has to be figured out like on the court right then. Like you don't get all the film and all the statistics that we get. You probably get a little bit of that, but when you're on the court, you need to figure out the combinations pretty quickly, and that's why I think it's unique that you play best of three, best of five. So first game, you're trying to figure out like where are their weaknesses, where do I gain an advantage, and then once you figure that out, then it's kind of you turn into a boxer in a way, right? I think
Mhm.
you even explained that to me. Like you're just trying different combinations to see what's going to get you an edge, what's going to help you be more successful, what's going to increase the chances of you getting a kill shot or a ball to kind of end the point.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I would say the biggest thing in pickleball for me, it's always been finding the right patterns for the right teams, whether it's your opponent or whether it's with your partner, right? So a lot of the times you spend the very first 3 or 4 points of the match, you maybe serve slice, maybe you serve really hard flat, maybe you serve, heavy topspin, and then you look to see, okay, am I going to drop this one to their backhand? I'm going to drop this middle. Do I want to crash and drive? Do I want to crash, stay back, hit a reset? So there's all these little combinations that go into it, right? Um, that said, you were explaining to me that a touchdown is 6 points,
Mhm.
right? And then you get to kick the ball through
The field goal.
the field goal, and that's 1 point.
Hmm.
So 1 point doesn't seem like a lot to me. So how would you put the field goal into a pickleball term? Like, is it equivalent to making a dink? Is it equivalent to making a third? Like, how difficult is it to get that extra point?
It's I don't think it's difficult, but I'm not a kicker. But it is. You do have to lock in and focus for it, and
Mhm.
a lot can go wrong in field goals, especially extra points, because you still have a defense that's trying to block it or draw you off sides. And now they changed the rule where they move you back. It used to be like you kick the field goal from like the 2 yard line as a chip shot, like just drive it through, be done with it. Now it's a little bit different. But we also, in addition to extra points, which is what we call that, we also have like the actual field goal, which is worth 3 points. So say you are driving the football into your opponent's territory, and you have 4 downs to score a touchdown or you know kick a field goal. Um, Once you get into your opponent's territory, based off the situation in the game, where the momentum is, who's it favoring, you might decide to kick a field goal on fourth down, because it brings the score within one score, or it creates separation in the score and makes you up 2 scores. Obviously, going for it on fourth down is much more riskier, I would say, depending on how much you have to go. Like if you are in on your opponent's 30-yard line and you are, we'll say, down 3 points, and it's 4th and 3, you have a decision to make.
Hmm.
Do I want to kick the field goal and tie the game up, or do I want to extend this drive and go for it on 4th down because we are the hot team and get a new set of downs and try to go ahead and win the game? If it's in the fourth quarter as well. So you have decisions to make, which I think is probably similar to pickleball with your shot selection. Sometimes you need to be conservative
Yeah.
when especially when they're serving and you're down. You probably got to be conservative and try to get the game to be even as fast as you can. But sometimes when you're up, you know, 10-5, you can kind of be aggressive and, because you can afford to maybe make a mistake.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I would agree. And for us in pickleball, like we don't have the stats, right? Like you were saying,
Yeah.
we don't really, at the moment, we don't have a coach with us that's helping us make those decisions, especially once we're at the tournament on court. So I think one of the very overlooked uh, things in pickleball towards the pros is the fact that we have to make strategy changes within the match, which is only up to 11 points, and it might change every 2 or 3 points, right? You just don't know because some things just never don't work. Some things maybe just don't feel good that day. So you're really uncomfortable a lot of the times, right? And it just happens so fast, as you know. So for you guys in the football team or in the football field, who's making that choice? Who's making that that choice for you guys? Who's doing it?
Ultimately, it's the head coach,
Okay.
but we've had so many people who are just kind of behind the scenes, understanding situational football, feeling the flow of the game. They're upstairs in the box, so they get like a bird's eye view of it. We even have people who hold notebooks, basically, the situational football, because it's impossible to really on the fly understand every single rule and understand the clock that goes with it and timeouts and 2-minute offense when you're up or down. And so you have someone who specializes with the notebook with every situation pretty much in there and the timing of it. So you understand, how much time you have, how many plays you can run, and so on and forth. Now, my question to you specifically, kind of along the lines of you don't have a support system there at the games to kind of help slow you down or help get your breathing right, or the mental coach, or some type of coach that kind of can identify things that you can't identify on the fly.
Mhm.
Why? Because I think because pickleball is becoming so competitive at this point. I mean, it's you're seeing pros pop up pretty quickly, and it's even harder now with the new draw. Why wouldn't every pro have a mental coach or a coach that understands pickleball on the deepest level to see the trend of what your opponent is doing, see the trend of what you're doing, see what is working and what's not working, what's putting them in the bind? Like, why wouldn't you have a strategic coach like that at every single tournament?
Yeah. I mean, it's tough, right? I would say the biggest reason is that the money's just not there right now. Um, Fortunately, there's some of us in the top 15, top 20 that make pretty good money, and the higher you go, the more you make, right? Um, but for me, for example, even though I'm able to, provide for my family, live a pretty good life, get to hang out with people like you, like I couldn't afford bringing a mental coach or like a trainer with me to every tournament, right? It's just not in the budget,
Mhm.
Now there's always that um, little window of, okay, what if I work with someone when I'm back home, especially like a mental coach or someone that knows the game really well, that's going to be able to help me maybe, figure out what those pinpoints are, whether, okay, like, hey, I watched you play, um, you get really tight around 8A. Why is that? And the truth is, I don't think there's a lot of people that are capable of that in pickleball yet. Because, in my opinion, right now, the best coaches are also the best players.
Mm.
And then you do have a couple exceptions, like you have Steve Dawson, which is extremely smart, really good at pickleball, even at the age of 62 and so forth. Um, you have Jason Perry from Utah, also very smart. But then again, like even if I was able to bring one of them on the road, um, to every single tournament, it just there's just like such a lack of those people, regardless, that even if all of us could do it, both of them would already be taken. So then, your list is just so small.
Mhm.
So I would say that would be the biggest reason, um, just monetary wise. But you were talking about how competitive pickleball has been getting, right? And my question is, for somebody like you, that obviously played really high level football, and from what we talked before, you want to play the highest level in pickleball, right? How do you bring your competitiveness from football to the pickleball court? Like, are you do you bring it by using some of the same strategies that you used in football to pickleball? Do you try to train as much as you used to? Like, what does that look like for you?
That's a really good question. And I've pondered because I have a passion for pickleball and I've pondered about trying to make the run to go pro. But because of where I am in life, being 35 with three young kids and a wife that tolerates me right now, I'm just not able to do it. But mentally, I do believe I could do it until I step on the court and drill with you. And I'm like, okay, I'm a long, long, long way away. Now, what I do know at this moment, which I don't even think matters all that much, is that if I step on a pickleball court, I'm 90% sure that I'm going to be the most athletic person on that court.
Hmm.
And I think that would benefit me. I think hand eye coordination, I've got it. I think quickness, I've got it. I think footwork, if I trained at it, I would have it because I have the football footwork. Now, where I am light years away from people like you or any pro really is shot selection, the mental part, and having um, all the different shots that you have. You
Hmm.
kind of touched on it earlier, and we've drilled before, and you've mentioned it. Like I have what I'm comfortable at, and that's a top spin drop from the right side of the court,
Hmm.
to a specific spot. But when you get to your level, you have to try a lot of stuff to figure out what the game plan is going to be moving forward for this match against this specific person. And I don't have that. And so that's why I have tried to surround myself with the best in the world, like you and Connor and Tyson. And I try to go to any event that's in this area just so I can just be around the sport and hear what the little things that people are talking about and the tips that they give because I just have lack of knowledge because I really started just playing what I guess seriously probably a year and a half ago
Hmm.
at this point.
Yeah.
And there's so many like little tips that I'm just missing on that a lot of it makes sense once it's mentioned to me and drawn it and draw attention to it. Then I'm like, okay, that makes sense. And so um, that's kind of I guess the mental part of it. Now the physical part of it is just like the shots. The
Hmm.
shots. I mean, you guys make it look so easy. The shots that you guys hit and perfect and place. And I'm still also trying to figure that out too.
Yeah.
And I don't even have the combinations of all that stuff. And that's where it's different from football because we went into football where we've got so much film and we've got so many stats that it's given to me. This is the hole that we're going to attack in this zone. This player right here, he stutter steps before you snap the ball. You know that he wants to jam with the right arm. You know that he wants to bail out of there in coverage or he wants to press you in coverage. I know that going into the game.
Hmm.
So I have a plan going into the game, and usually I don't have to defer off of that plan, usually
Yeah.
in my individual matchups. Now, in pickleball, you got to be able to move on your feet without anyone telling you anything and figure out what their trend is, what's going to give you the edge, what are they doing to you to gain the edge, and like that's a whole nother like beast.
Yeah, absolutely. And then again, that's what I was talking about before, or earlier. It's very overlooked, right? The fact that we have to make so many changes in such a little amount of time in a match, it's a little crazy, right? And you don't have anyone really to help you with it. Um, so yeah, it just gets difficult, especially with all the players that are coming in. Um, when you play somebody for the first time, and most of the time they're already really good, and you have like no film to watch them on, right? Because even though I don't have anybody looking at the film and telling me the stats for me, I've gone to a point where I can watch, three or four pickable matches of a certain player and pick up on little cues, right? Like, oh, like his backing ding is a little iffy. He doesn't really reach in that much, so my kitchen gets a little bigger, right? So I can kind of pick up on those things. But the players that are coming in that are really good, especially people from Florida, people from Utah that train, they're kind of like sleepers, right? They train all the time, but you don't know who they are because maybe they don't have the money to get to a tournament. But then they get picked up in an MLP draft, and you're like, oh wow, like, well, let's see, let's see how good he is, and then now you watch him go to a certain tournament and do really well. Um, and a lot of the times, you just don't know how to play this person because you never seen him play, but he's been able to see you play for the past, I mean, I don't know, it could be a year, it could be 2 years, right? However long he's been training for. So yeah, I would say that being able to make those little adjustments on the spot, in pickleball specifically, and I'm sure in a lot of other sports too, as well, just really go a long way. Um, but tell me a little bit about what your training regimen used to be like in football, and how do you think a lot of us professionals could apply that to our day to day life in pickleball?
Okay. Man, I tell you this, I do not miss the football workouts. That's I've never been a gym rat like
Mhm.
that. I've always been like, let me go do whatever it is you want me to do and like work on my skill through that. Like, let me go play 7-on-7 or do something that's competitive. But going into the gym and just lifting, I've never been a fan of. Now, I've always done it
Mhm.
because I had to really,
Yeah.
uh, and I'm glad I did. But as far as from my understanding and my knowledge, I believe in pickleball working on mobility, stability
Mhm.
are probably two of the key ones because to me, the strength part, I don't know how valuable it is just yet because that plastic ball can only go so fast and
Mhm.
it can only go so fast so far before it's out.
Yeah, it's true.
Um, so I don't even know how much strength really matters. I mean, there's some, but mobility, stability, and explosiveness, I think, would be
Yeah.
really important for all pickleball players to constantly be working on. And the stability part is being comfortable when you are hit a shot that should make you comfortable uncomfortable
Mhm.
and being able to get to that ball and regain your stability, which is going to in return make you more comfortable to return that backhand dink or whatever or drop or drive that kind of stretches you out a little bit too much maybe. um, the mobility part of it is going to allow you to move to that ball.
Mhm.
And the explosiveness is, in my opinion, a part of masking your shots. Like you think I'm about to drop, or you think I'm about to dink, and it looks droppish and dinkish, and then boom.
Yeah.
That's explosiveness to me.
Yeah.
Or being able to when someone thinks they just passed you, and you're able to one step and get to it and hammer that ball back at them. It's like whoa, that's explosiveness to me. So those three things I think will really help pickleball players and just people in general in any really any sport for the
Yeah.
most part.
Yeah, that's interesting, right? Because like the way that I view it, and you and I have talked about it before, it's a lot of people really focus on, like working out, right, or eating right, sleep. But in my honest opinion, like none of those things matter if you're not a certain skill in whatever sport you're playing, right? Like if I'm a 4 or 5 in pickleball and I work out a lot and I'm ripped and I eat rice, chicken, and broccoli every single day, like it's not really gonna make my game better, right?
Mhm.
So I think having the foundation of, I need to get really good at pickleball first, get as good as I can, and then you treat like the sleep and the nutrition and then the working out, um, later on, then that's kind of like the cherry on top. And you and I touched on that before, I'm pretty sure.
Mhm.
Um, but when it comes to like strength itself, like I don't think you need to be really strong upper body. But I do think you need a certain amount of strength in like your forearms, right? For example, like when someone is firing at you, maybe a drive, maybe a speed up that's really hard, and you hit that punch volley, like you do really need to be strong within your forearms, right?
Mhm.
Maybe a little bit of shoulder, whatever it is. But yeah, I don't think you need to be extremely strong when it comes to like biceps, triceps, and all that stuff, even though it's all connected. Now I do think there's a lot of value in being really strong with your legs, right? Because everything you do with your legs is gonna transition into explosiveness and more power within your shots, right? But you also have to, get that healthy balance of like how strong am I? Am I at a weight um, that's good for the sport that I play, right? Like for me right now, I've been bulking and I'm a little too big for pickleball, in my opinion, right? And you could probably attest to that. But the next phase is okay, I'm really strong. Let me come down to maybe 190 or somewhere along those lines, while trying to keep some of that muscle. And then now I'll be, a little more feathery almost. Like I'll be able to move better, not get as tired, right? But then again, what you were saying, like mobility is a huge one, speed is a huge one. Being able to like maybe like even spinal, like rotational stuff, like being able to like move this way and like hit a thing behind you. That's that goes a
Mhm.
long way as well. Um, but yeah,
Stamina. I would say
stamina. Yeah.
stamina is a huge one, and you kind of triggered me to say that because in some of these dink rallies, like you go 30, 40 shots, and you're
Hmm.
going to hit your best shots if you're in good position, low with the ball, but that's a burnout.
Yeah.
Like that's a quad and hammy and glute burnout, having to be low and activated for 30 to 40 shots
Hmm.
and to do it efficiently. And that's where I lack. Like I get this burnout and I'm like, all right, I'm upright. And the next thing you know, I put one into the net or I put it up too high, I get attacked. And so that's one thing that I think that comes to mind with me is like the Johns brothers can sit there and dink all day. And like, I just can't help but think like, man, their legs have got to be burnt out, but that's a part of the stamina.
Yeah, no, I would agree, and I would say, to kind of just add to that. Oh man, I forgot. What was I gonna say? Yeah, I was gonna say like pickleball athletes are more like endurance athletes, right? Because a lot of the times our tournaments are a 1 day event. So
Hmm.
you might start at 10 a.m. You want to get there at 9 a.m. Get a good warm up. Uh, you want to wake up earlier, right? So you can eat your food and digest and so forth. Then you want to get a good warm up. Then you might start your first match at 10. Even if you just get to the quarterfinals, now it might be 5 or 6 p.m., right? So you have to treat it like it's an endurance thing because that last match of 5 or 6 p.m. or maybe even afterwards, if you're playing some sort of bronze medal, maybe a semifinals, might be 7, 8 p.m. And that's the match that probably matters the most, right? You
Hmm.
wanna win that semifinals, you wanna win that finals, right? Like for me, even though I hate any loss, a semifinal loss hurts a lot more than a first round loss
Hmm.
to me personally. Not that I had very many recently personally, but you get what I'm saying. Like the closer to you get to that, sweet apple, it's like you just want it that much more, right?
Absolutely.
So I would say that pickleball athletes are more like endurance athletes, and treating your nutrition and all that stuff throughout the tournament, hydration, and these long days of competition go a long way. Um,
If you look at like in my sport, you look at all the greats that have ever played, and at my position specifically, I'm going to say Jerry Rice.
mhm,
You couldn't outrun Jerry Rice. I don't care how many quarters you played, you could not outrun him. You couldn't. You His stamina was going to win every single time. And I think that was part of his greatness, though.
Yeah.
In the fourth quarter, he's peaking when people are declining.
Yeah.
And that was his preparation leading up to those moments. Now, in our sport, we have a decent off season, and you have a choice to go to the gym and work out, or to work on your weakness, or whatever it is. Jerry Rice was running like he was a marathon runner from like Ghana, pretty much. Like him, and he's making these. He's making it hard. Like he's running hills with a weighted vest on, and he's what we call in our sport, right? He's depositing. He's putting it in the bank
Yeah.
because he doesn't know when he's going to have to withdraw that. It could be week 1, it could be week 16, it could be in the Super Bowl, but I want to have enough in the tank that I can withdraw from that when I need it. And so that's what separated him, I believe, because I don't really remember Jerry Rice being like burner speed. It's just his routes in the fourth quarter and overtime look just as effectively as they did in the first quarter when we were fresh. And that's what separates a lot of people. You talk about the greats, Kobe's and LeBron's, uh, Jerry Rice, like I said, and any other great, they excelled at all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And like when you get to such a competitive game, you got to find whatever edge it is. And you never want your preparation to be the reason why you lost,
Yeah.
ever, because that's not something you can just change tomorrow. That's a habit. That's a full habit. And so I think all being disciplined in one thing is almost like being disciplined in everything,
Yeah.
right? So if you're taking care of your body, you're probably, if you're trying to max it out and you're obsessed with your craft and you want to be the best you can possibly, I think if you're taking care of your body, that means you're sleeping. That means you're fueling your body correctly. That means you're working on the mobility, stability, and the strength. You're doing it all because it all kind of goes hand in hand. And it gets to a point where, like, the games are so competitive that if I get my edge because I slept 8 hours and I have a little bit more mental clarity,
Mm.
that's a win. And now I need to decide on like what's your weakness? Is your weakness like moving all around the court? Is your weakness dinking for a long time? And you identify that, but like going on the court or the field and like knowing like you not gonna out mental me and you definitely not gonna out stamina me. I feel like that's part of the battle because we are human and we have weaknesses.
Yeah.
And a lot of people's weaknesses come just from right here in their mind.
Yeah, and that was exactly what I was going to say because in pickable matters, right? If I'm playing you, for example, right, as good as a player you are, I am confident that if we have to go 10 or 20 dinks, I'm not outlasting you in the sense of maybe stamina, but I know that my shot quality it's better than yours. So I'm putting more pressure on you more than you are on me,
Mhm.
right? So you might miss sooner just because of that. But as you get better and better and better, these people are getting so good at defense, right? Like if you play Ben, like a lot of the times, it does not matter how good of a shot you're hitting. He's like, back into the kitchen, right? Like nice, shallow, and soft, right? So then it really just becomes a battle of okay, well, we can do this all day. If I'm hitting all these like, hero shots and you're not, I might miss sooner,
Mhm.
right? Because I know I can't outdink you stamina wise, and so I have to go for better shots, which translates into missing more often,
Mhm.
even though the quality of the shot still needs to be a certain degree, right? Um, but one thing that I wanted to really quick touch on is obviously I don't know many Super Bowl winners. How's that feeling? How does somebody like you, navigate through that? Because from my own experience, obviously I'm not a Super Bowl winner, but anytime that I've won a big tournament, like when I won MLP for the first time and I got that first, big paycheck for a pickleballer, it felt really, really good for about 8 hours or so, right? And I don't party, I don't smoke, I don't drink. So I won. I went to get some dinner, maybe some sushi. I went home, fell asleep, and then it's like, okay, new day. So how does somebody like you navigate that?
That's a really good question. So I was young when I won a Super Bowl, and ignorance is bliss. And I was fortunate and blessed enough to win a Super Bowl my fourth season in the NFL. And I was drafted by the Seattle Seahawks. I went to the playoffs my first year, didn't make it my second year, went to the playoffs my third year, Won a Super Bowl my fourth year. By the time I got to my fourth year, I'd won probably what 7 or 8 playoff games when there was people who had never even been to the playoffs who played for 12 years.
Hmm.
And so I went into won a Super Bowl, and like after one, I was like, man, that did not seem that hard because everything had just went right for our team, and I was young and dumb and just trying to figuring it out. But at that point in my life, the Super Bowl for me was the best thing ever,
Yeah.
and it was the best thing ever because I had been a kid. My dad had played football. He set a bunch of records at school in Tennessee called Tennessee State University back when HBCUs, historical black college universities, were a pretty big deal. Give you perspective, like my dad led the league several times in yards, but he also was playing against Jerry Rice, who was also leading the league in yards as well. So like that was a battle. I mean, Jerry Rice, we know who Jerry Rice is, but for me, like growing up and dreaming about winning Super Bowls and being in the backyard reenacting Brett Favre with the Green Bay Packers throwing Golden Tate in the fourth quarter of the Super Bowl, a touchdown, a 70-yarder. Green Bay wins the Super Bowl. From going from a kid with the imagination to now a kid in high school who has an opportunity to go play college ball. From then a kid in college who was just having fun to now this reality, you have an opportunity to go play in the National Football League,
Hmm.
to then a kid who had this journey to now I'm on a team that's playing in the Super Bowl. What? How did we get here? And wow, wow. And so for me, that was like, it was the best feeling ever because it was something I had prayed and manifested for literally my entire life. And I was able to do that after only being in the league at that point 3 years. And so going into my fourth year is when we won it, or during my fourth year. So it's special. However, I completely can resonate and understand what you're saying. Like when you won your big tournament and how you thought you were going to feel
Hmm.
versus how you actually felt. Like for me, I hate losing more than I like to win.
Yeah, me too.
That's just it is what it is. And I never want to give someone the satisfaction of beating me. But to the point that you were kind of making is that these these big wins and these trophies, they don't really mean shit. Really, they really don't.
They don't. Yeah.
It's the journey that means the most. And like, yeah, the hardware, whatever.
Mhm.
That's materialistic, but like the journey that got me here, I think that's more important because I'm sure when you won that big tournament, you had some hardship.
Mhm.
You had some things that maybe physically you were dealing with injury. You had something that you were battling mentally. And when you won that, it was like, damn, whew,
Yeah.
I finally got over the hump.
It's more of a relief.
Yeah.
It's more of a relief. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, man, I've worked so hard for this. And so like, yeah, the hardware is like, yeah, whatever. Um, but I will say this for me, when we did win the Super Bowl, it made me want to win it even more.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people go through this phase where like, oh, I won a Super Bowl, now it's time to chill. Nah, I wanted to get back there because I want that feeling again. Even though it was, temporary and like it was cool to win a Super Bowl, you know, pretty much that night. And then, there's times I just completely forget.
Hmm.
But then there's times where fans are just like, man, I want to see the ring. That's so cool. And like now, I guess winning the Super Bowl is a lot cooler now than it was when I actually won it because now I am completely done with football. And now I have children. And now our team is in the record books for the rest of time for being considered the best team in the world. I mean, that's cool to tell my more so show my kids and tell my kids because I don't give a damn about the stats and the touchdowns, but I do remember the journey, the locker room,
Hmm.
some of the instances of like me getting hurt during or hurt during that season, and like the days I just had the absolute grind. The days I woke up, man, I don't feel like doing this right now, but just being fighting through it, and that's what you remember. And that's what makes it so rewarding in really anything. Because if it's easy, don't nobody. everybody be doing it for one, and it would be like, yeah, whatever.
And that goes a long way. I totally resonate with what you're saying. It's more about, in my opinion, it's more about overcoming the hardships, and winning is just kind of what comes with it, and then you enjoy it for a little bit, but then once you start winning, you just want to win more, right? Like you start setting up these goals for yourself, right? Like maybe if you're in pickleball, for example, like, okay, like I want to get out of the qualifiers, right? And then you like try hard, and then once you get out of the qualifiers, okay, great, I'm doing this, but I really want to get that first round win, right? And then the more you win, the more you want to get it going, right?
Mhm.
I never understood too much of when people win something, right? And they're like satisfied with it. Because I always felt more like you felt. It's like, okay, wow, that was not as hard as I thought it was. Because you kind of tend to forget those days that were really hard for yourself.
Mhm.
And in this moment right now is so sweet that you just want to experience this more often, right? But yeah, no, that's really cool. You know, that winning the Super Bowl has got to feel amazing. Congratulations on that. I
Thank you.
want to go a little bit more into your pickleball journey now, right? So you and I have known each other now. Um, what do we think, like 6 months or so?
I would say so.
Uh,
I've known you for much longer. I
which
guess you didn't know me, but I knew you.
Yeah, which is funny to me, right? Because like you're just like you're Golden Tate, and now we're homies, right? But I never watched football, right? So if I saw you around, if I saw you anywhere walking, I wouldn't know who you are just because I don't watch football,
Uh
right?
huh.
But being able to, honestly, one of the coolest things to me is not knowing who you are, being able to hang out with you, and then just finding out that you're like the coolest, down to earth person, that I've ever met is like super refreshing,
Oh,
right?
thanks,
Because
bud.
I think a lot of people get lost in, a little bit of money, a little bit of fame, and then you've known them for a while, and then they change over time, and that's not how you want to. In my opinion, that's not how you want to like go about life, you
Mm-mm.
know. So to me, it was super refreshing, right? But I remember, I don't know where I was, but I think somebody brought you up, and they told me that you lived in Rancho, and at that time I wasn't living full time in Texas,
Mm.
so I came back to California, and I hit you up on Instagram. I sent you a DM, and you never read it. I don't think you ever read it.
Dang it.
Yeah.
So just so you know, I never saw it. I genuinely never saw it until I saw you at MLP, and we just kind of made this awkward like eye contact, like we kind of knew each other. And like I
Hmm.
guess I had heard, people had mentioned like, hey, DJ wants to, he'll drill with us at any time. And then when I saw you kind of walking by, it was like I wanted to say what's up, but it was just odd. And
Hmm.
then I think I ended up going back to like find the messages. Like sure enough, you had sent me a message, but I don't know how I missed it. There's been times where my inbox is flooded with DMs from people, and I am sorry that I missed it because I am. I mean, that's just not me. But yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no, it's all good. It's all good. But let me ask you. So obviously, football's done. We can be done talking about that. Thank you so much for your information. But now married, 3 kids. I met one of them, I believe, like cutest little guy ever, right?
Isaiah,
Isaiah. I am I am a newly father as well, right? And
congrats.
thank you. And it was interesting to me because nobody ever has been able to explain to me, what being a dad is, right? Like the feeling that you get when like you see your kid, and mine is only 2 weeks old, but every now and then she like give a little smile or something, right? And now I understand why they couldn't, right? Like I could not explain to someone how much I love this kid and what I would do to like protect this kid, right? Um, but that said, how do you transition from football, which we're not talking about anymore, to now being, married with 3 kids? Were you married and had a kid during the football season, or was it everything afterwards? And what does that mean to you?
Yeah. Great question, and this is something that there's a thousand ways to do it, and there's a lot of different ways and different strokes for different folks, and some people work better with whatever it is. For me, I didn't get married until later in my career,
Hmm.
uh, but I was with my girlfriend at the time, my wife now, for pretty much the duration of my career.
Yeah.
And then we didn't get married until like I don't know, I was on my eighth or ninth year, and then we had our first child. I think what on my I played 12 seasons, so my
Hmm.
10th season is when we had our first child, and for me, it was. I'm glad we did it that way. There's a pros and cons to it, to a little bit both. Like I hate that my kids never got to see daddy in action and really understand what was going on.
Yeah.
But I also am thankful that we waited to have children because it allowed me to get settled into my profession. I could focus completely on my profession. I had a wife that was super supportive, who's amazing and a superhero because I don't know how she can manage so many things when I can only manage like washing the dishes at one time. And so it worked for us. Um, but it's hard, man.
Hmm.
It's hard, and it forces you to really evaluate your time.
Yeah.
You kind of once you have a kid, you lose all that bullshit time, like that bullshit of like, I'm just gonna sit in the parking lot for 15 minutes. One, you really don't want to do that. You're excited to see like your baby, and the type of love that you have for a child is the type of love that you didn't know you even had,
It's different, bro. It's
because
different.
we're born as selfish individuals,
Hmm.
and we learn to be unselfish with our things, our time, and whatever else we can kind of think of. And so it's not something that's even natural. And
Yeah.
so when you have a child, that forces you to be unselfish with a lot of stuff. There's a lot of times you don't probably feel like getting up with the baby, but because you're practicing unselfishness for your lady, and also, pouring into your child, you do it. Um, it becomes a challenge when you have a profession that's in sports where like you don't really have a 9 to 5 where you have to go somewhere and
Hmm.
be there in the office and away from the family. Like you kind of can make your own schedule, and that's you have to really practice discipline there.
Yeah.
All while balancing keeping wifey happy and being there for your child. But when I once I had my baby, I could not wait to get home
Hmm.
to
Yeah.
see her because she's my first one. And although I don't need 4 to 5 hours with my babies, I'm give me a solid hour and a half, 2 hours, and I feel full. I'm
Hmm.
good. Now I will hang out with them for 8 hours at a time,
Yeah.
but it just kind of forces you to kind of decide what's important. And I think children has given me marriage and children has given me perspective,
Yeah.
because I thought for the longest time that I was on this earth to play football,
Yeah.
and I thought football would never ever end. And now football was kind of the third or fourth most important thing on my list by the time it was all said and done, because me playing football wasn't going to get me anywhere in the afterlife, or it wasn't going to get me anywhere with God, but leading my family, um, and teaching my children to be better people than I am, certainly, and just be, give them a strong foundation is really what matters. And I remember thinking like, when I was young and stupid, I remember I would be around these parents would be like, yeah, my son goes to Harvard, or my son achieved this. And I'd be like, I don't give a damn like, who cares? You didn't do it. Like this before I had kids,
Yeah.
like you didn't do it. Like why are you saying this so like proudly? But now that I have children,
Hmm.
your children are going to be a reflection of you.
Yeah.
And that's the good, the bad, the indifferent, right?
Yeah.
And so I want I want to, one, make my family proud and make my children proud. And I want the biggest compliment I feel like I can have right now is if my son grows up and they say, "Hey, so who was your hero growing up?
Yeah. Your role model.
A role model." And I hope I do a job that my children say, "My dad."
Yeah.
not, some actor, actress, sports figure. Hope they say my dad, because then that's the ultimate compliment.
Yeah.
And where he goes to school, what he does is going to be like, what are the foundations that we set
Hmm.
as our family? What standard that we set? And so that's why family and children matter much more than this, I guess, in a way, the selfish profession I had. It was me go work out, me perform. Now it's me, um, heading my life a certain way because I want to set the best example for my children.
Yeah.
And times have changed.
Yeah, and honestly, that's absolutely amazing. I can vouch that having a kid is like an absolute blessing, honestly. Um, it is interesting what you were saying about not having a 9 to 5. If you don't have a 9 to 5, you have to be basically more disciplined with your time than if you didn't, right? Because if you do, you're kind of under this umbrella of your life where everything is scheduled for you,
Mhm.
right? But that kind of stuck with me because I find myself um, being more disciplined now than I was before I had a kid. That said, there's some mornings where I'm like, I don't know, I think I just want to be like on the couch with my baby and my fiance, like it happens, right?
Mhm.
Um, but the biggest thing for me, selfishly speaking, a little bit, is that it's brought like a new purpose to myself. So not going to the gym for me, but for my family and my kid and my fiance, and making myself better for them, it, in my opinion, just hits a little bit different. Right at the end of the day, it's also for myself because I'm the one that's getting the benefit and all that stuff. But being able to do so, to have some sort of example on your family, I think it goes a really long way, and that's been really really cool for me to see because I never thought that my mindset would change that much.
Mhm.
But even the little decisions of like waking up at a certain time, now it's easier, right?
Mhm.
Because it's not just about me. Not eating a certain dessert because I just feel a little bit bad about it, right? For some reason. And I couldn't really explain to you what it is, but it's just really wanting to be and do better,
Yeah.
right?
I think I might. I think I can pick up what you're dropping right now. And what I'm hearing from you is it's perspective, right?
Yeah.
It's perspective because perspective changes a lot as you get older, and hopefully for the better as we get older, as we get wiser, is what I'm hoping. But what you just described to me was like feel versus, what's the word I'm looking for? The feel versus, oh, it'll come to me. The point I'm making is feel. Feel changes on
Hmm.
a moment's time, right?
Yeah.
One moment I could be happy, the sun goes away, the next moment I'm sad.
Yeah.
One moment I can be excited about today and I'm driving to a destination, the next moment someone cuts me off and I'm livid, ready to kill someone.
Yeah.
Like feel comes and goes so quickly.
Hmm.
But if you function, this is what I'm looking for. You function around principle.
Hmm.
I think that has certainly helped me because I'm a dessert head too.
Yeah.
Like, but if I just feel like I want to go eat ice cream, I'm probably gonna go eat ice cream, right? Because but if I go on the principle of like I want ice cream, but I'm not eating this ice cream because this is not gonna help me, I don't know, wake up in the morning, or it's not gonna help me get my body fat down, or it's not gonna help me on the football field, then maybe that's the reason. Now, ice cream was non-negotiable for me. I was eating ice cream
Yeah.
every single Saturday night
Yeah.
before a game. That's just it's a habit that I have never was ever going to get rid of,
But
and
there's so
it
many
worked.
things, right? I
But
mean,
yes,
so many things.
but
But
yes,
go
but
ahead.
acting on principle instead of feel is going to be a better. It's going to provide a better outcome, and it's going to help you probably get over like not doing some things, right?
Hmm.
And so because yeah, today, you know, I don't feel like working out. No, but I'm going to work out because it's good for my health and it's good for whatever else I want to achieve in life.
Yeah.
So That's kind of my 2 cents on feel versus principle.
Yeah, and to top it off, it's almost like you are making the better choices for yourself long term than short term,
Hmm.
right? The short term would say, let's eat that ice cream, but the long term wouldn't like so, right? The short term would say, I can stay in bed, I don't have to go to the gym right now, but the long term is not gonna like so, right?
Hmm.
So trying to live your life by principle, like you were saying, while at the same time doing the best for you and your family long term is what's going to go a long way,
Hmm.
even if it's little things, like maybe putting money aside to invest more to have a safer, better future, right? Little things like that.
Yeah.
um, then again, it's just going to be a form of making your life, your kids life, your wife's life better in the long term, right?
Hmm.
Which is really what we want.
Yeah.
But talk to me a little bit about how you got into pickleball, right? So now you have a wife, you have 3 kids, and you find this new purpose, so called pickleball. So, just tell me about that.
Well, first and foremost, purpose is something that I have been battling with since I retired. Like
Hmm.
trying to figure out that purpose, what's going to make me happy, but also what's going to help, God's kingdom. And actually, over the last year, I've actually learned what purpose is for me, and I'm still trying to find that purpose because I'm 35 and I'm retired, and um, hopefully I don't ever have to work again. But I just feel
Hmm.
like as a man that's supposed to, provide for my home, I feel like I need to be doing something that's generating an income.
Yeah.
Now, I also understand that God has gifted me with an insane amount of athleticism that I'm super thankful for, and I want to use every single bit of it. So, my battles have been like, should I go try to be like grind it out and be a pro golfer? Should I go play baseball? Because I played baseball in college and was drafted twice in college. Oh, you know what? Pickle seems to be like a little bit more convenient, and there's no one on the court like me. So I'm constantly looking for like a purpose in sports some way, and I haven't quite found it yet.
Hmm.
Um, but I got into pickleball seriously over probably the last year and a half. But I will never forget the day that I even learned what pickleball was.
Yeah.
It was 2010. I was in Seattle, Washington, my rookie year. I'd met my girlfriend, who's my wife now, and she had me come over to her house in Woodinville, Washington. And there was 2 things that I tried that day. It was a medium steak and pickleball.
Which
Up
one was
until
better?
then, at the time, it was definitely the medium steak because I'd been eating my steak, medium well,
Hmm.
because we weren't getting that good USDA meat. We were getting that, that BS, and so I just medium well.
Hmm.
I end up trying medium steak, and I look outside because we're upstairs. I look outside, and I see what appears to be pretty much a mini tennis court.
Hmm.
And so my personality is like, if you're not going to do it right, don't do it at all. I looked down and I pretty much very kindly asked them. I said, "Why do you have a halfway tennis court? Like, why build it in the first place? It's not
Yeah.
even regulation. Like, what goal are you working? Oh, no, 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 no. It is pickleball. Pickleball. There's a sport called pickleball.
What is that?
What the like? What? Where's that even come from? And like, oh no, 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 no. It's nothing to do with pickles. I picked up on that. You can't really play a sport with pickles. um, and anyway, they take me downstairs after I ate the medium steak, and I'm like, okay, I trust you a little bit more because that was actually bomb. And they give me this actual wooden paddle,
Okay.
and they give me pretty much like a Kmart wiffle ball, like something I used to grow up, playing with in the backyard. I'm like,
Hmm.
what in the world are we about to do? But anyway, we end up. They teach me the rules, kind of. We play a little bit. I walk away as I'm a ping pong player, so I have a little pal awareness, and I walk away thinking, okay, that was an interesting, neat sport, but I'll probably never play it ever again,
Yeah.
ever. Like it was cool, and you know, I liked it because I was competitive, and I felt like we won, but that was it. Well, we fast forward to us buying a home in Rancho Santa Fe, California.
Beautiful home, by the way.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I started hearing it mentioned a little bit more.
Hmm.
And so again, having ping pong awareness and being an elite athlete back then, I was like, okay, well, I could do this. So I would go out and play once every month, maybe in a little group. And some people I'd absolutely abuse. Some people would abuse me, and so it served its purpose. And then over like I guess a year and a half at this point, I remember going up to Bobby Riggs, playing with my buddies, and then watching a game of hot. These guys were 4 or 5, and I was watching that game like, oh wow, they are that looks they what they're doing looks a lot more fun than what I'm doing. And so I remember getting that day, the guy name was Santos, and then Reggie Wilson, who ended up being like my partner in like a lot, several 4 or 5 tournaments we played in. But I started playing with those guys like multiple times a week, and like I got so much better in literally a week,
Hmm.
from just grinding with them. And then now I'm a full on addict because it's a variance of a lot of things for me. It's a variance of athletes or being athletic. It's the knowledge and strategy.
Yeah.
Like if you go out there with no strategy against a good players, you think you're just going to bang because you're out athlete them. It's not going to work. And so I love like the strategy part of it, and like having access to people like you who are considered to be the best in the world at what they do. I think is really really cool, and that's a whole new respect that I have for really anyone in their field. Like I want to be around who's considered to be the best in whatever they do. Doctor, trash man, teacher,
Hmm.
pickleball player, football player, I want to be around the best because if you're around the best, they are doing something that everyone else is not doing,
Right.
right? And so that to me has always been unique. And now I just kind of I play it because it's really convenient here. You can I can get my workout in, my agility in, the community part of it, which just simulates like the locker room that I had back in football, and I get all that in 2 hours, 2.5 hours, and have fun, be fulfilled,
Yeah.
and get back home. It's convenient for me.
Yeah, and for the people that don't know, Bobby Rick's Tennis Club, well, it used to be a tennis club.
Hmm.
Now it's a racket and paddle club.
Yeah.
It's owned by Steve Dawson and Jennifer Dawson,
Hmm.
which were really good tennis players in their time. Transitioned into really good pickleballers at the time, and they basically took a chance on their tennis club, put in some pickleball courts, and it just ended up being like the best, probably single-handedly best life choice they've ever made, like monetary speaking, right?
1,000%.
Um, so that's for the people who don't know. Now, what I wanted to ask you was, how long did it take you from when you started playing, not in 2010, but in, about a year and a half ago, you mentioned?
Sure.
Um, how long did it take you to just be like completely hooked, right? Because from what I know of you, you like when you get into something, you really want to, go all the way in, right? You're not so much of a great person. You're like, okay, like I either do it or you might as well not do it. Kind of like you were talking about the, mini tennis court. So how long did it take you until you were like, this is something that I'm just see myself doing quite often?
It didn't take long, and part of the reason was like me. I'm not going to try something that I just know that I can't do. Like soccer, I wasn't going to try that because my hand-eye coordination is too incredible that I want to use my hands. So I just wasn't going to really try it. Although maybe I should have, but uh, for me, just early on, getting smacked by like 60-year-old dudes that are slow,
I
I
get
was
it.
like, it would frustrate me. But I knew deep down, like, I can get this sport
Hmm.
because I do have a background. I do have hand-eye coordination. I have the utmost athleticism. So, that's why I stayed with it. And once I started surrounding myself with people who would beat me, and again, me hating losing more than I like winning, I was like, man, I'm not in my mind. These are conversations in my mind. I would say this publicly. Like, I'm not like, let this motherfucker beat me consistently. Like I'm like in my mind, I'm like that shit. Like I'm not doing that. And so like it would drive me to like start grinding and start playing more and start meeting more people in the community and start trying to figure it out. And so now I'm to the point where like I don't want to play pickleball unless I'm the worst one on the court
Yeah.
because that's how I think I get better. And that forces me to like be a smarter player. I'm seeing shots that I wouldn't see with people who are not as good as me. And so like any new group, I'm saying, hey, let's play, but make sure I'm the worst one on the court. I want you to pick on me. Like picking on me makes me want it more.
Yeah.
And you exposing me makes me want it more. Where a lot of people, it makes them like, man, I ain't doing this, man. I can't deal with the heat. But me, I want the smoke. I want all the smoke. And so when we drill and you're body bagging me, like I get a weird sensation, like good feeling from it. But I'm also like, just so you know, I would never say this really, but I'm gonna say it on because we're in, the first ever podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm taking notes in my mind though. Like when I'm getting popped on and like you just working me, I'm taking notes in my mind and it's fueling me. It's fueling me. And that's the thing that I think, and I'm not putting myself in the same area, but like I can understand what Kobe and LeBron and Michael Jordan, that competitive thing where like they find one little thing, like you just smile at me wrong. I'm noting it and it's feeding me, it's fueling me. I don't want you to have that smile ever again. And so that's a part of like pickleball that kind of keeps driving me as well.
Yeah, I had a guy.
It's a sickness, I guess.
Yeah, sickness. We all have that sickness. I have a quick story, and I don't remember who it was, but I think it was somewhere, a couple years ago when pickleball wasn't as big, but people were really trying to get into it at the time, and the athletes were not as good as they are now.
Mm-hmm.
And I was playing a game with somebody, and it was a rec game, and my friend Mike was on the court, and he still brings it up to this day. And we were playing together. I'm playing left, more like the dominant side of the court, right? What people say. And I probably hit this guy in front of me like 4 or 5 times. And the ethical move when you hit somebody, when you body back somebody, it's hey, sorry, man, whatever. Even though sometimes you kind of go for it, but you don't want to hurt them. It's just part of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy had this look on his face. He was like so happy that he was getting body bagged because he thought he was getting better by it, and he probably was, right? Like you're saying, taking mental notes. I probably said sorry for the 5th time, and he's like, no, I love it. Dude. And me and my friend Mike were going like, what is going on? Because a lot of people get upset when they get hit.
Mm-hmm.
But this guy was like, I'm getting better, man. But anyway, just a quick story. But going back to what you were saying, you pick up this wooden paddle. You don't like the game. You're really focused on your girlfriend and football at the time. But nowadays with the technology and the paddles, right? We both know you're with a certain company. Is that out yet, or?
No, it's not out really, but it's kind of a hybrid in my scenario. I'm pretty much with Pro XR and Paddle Tech, I guess, in a way, because Pro XR bought Paddle Tech, so I guess now I get the best of both worlds. But initially, before they had bought Paddle Tech, I was with Pro XR, just kind of signed a deal, and I have an amazing agent, which I don't even know why I need an agent in pickleball because I'm really not seriously going to go pro realistically, but was able to find a great paddle company that I'm excited to be a part of, and I'm actually coming out with a signature paddle over in the next few weeks.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Ish, and hopefully I can recruit one of my good buddies to come on over at some point. Starts with D and last name ends with G. But
Can you imagine having the both of us in there?
I mean, we get some great footage for sure, some great content, and you'd have to train. You have to train and drill with me more.
That's true. That should be in my in one of the clauses in my contract. You have to drill with Golden twice a week.
There you go.
But what made you want to go with Pro XR? Because Paddle Tech at that point is out of the picture, right? Like there was nothing really going on. But what really, what drew you to Pro XR the most? Was it the people? Was it the paddle technology? Was it both? Give me a little bit of your.
Yeah, so I went with Paddle Pro XR because one, I become pretty good buddies with Connor.
Connor Garnett.
Yeah. And so I was spending more time with him, and I liked the paddle that I had with them, and but more importantly, me being a multi-sport athlete, it just kind of fit my personality. And Pro XR, they have their hand in a lot of sports. I remember playing baseball and having like the handle, like the axe handle was kind of, I guess what they call it, but they specialize in utilizing that. And so for me, being a multi-sport athlete, I thought I could also have my hand in a couple different things, including pickleball. So they were willing to take a risk and allow me to join the team. And I never thought I'd be coming out with my own paddle and not being a pro, but like again, I'm obsessed with pickleball.
Yeah.
I love it, and so I wish I would have invested in an MLP team years ago. Now I'm definitely not doing it because the evaluation is like $1 bajillion. But I've invested in a company called Crush Yard, which is a pickleball club, place, restaurant that they're doing. The first one's in like South Carolina. They're bringing it to Florida and Tennessee as well. But just trying to be involved in the sport because one, I have a passion for it and love it. But um, honestly, I'm thankful. I'm thankful that I'm able to be around sports and you know be specifically in pickleball. But the final reason why I went with um, Pro XR was I didn't want to be with a brand new company that's still trying to figure it out because I'm not a pro. I'm not about to
Mhm.
go show up and tell you like this paddle is the best thing out there. Like that in nor do I have leverage to do that. I don't have any, there's nothing saying like, yeah, you're not even a pro, dude. I want to go with a company who has a reputable name and I want to enhance their company. But I don't want me to be the backbone of that company. So going with a Pro XR who's traditionally had a good paddle. They have some really good pros already there. Um, I felt like it was just another way, another addition because majority of the world is amateurs
Yeah.
or people who are just now beginning pickleball. And so for me, I thought the market would be like, all right, I'm a non-pro in almost non-biased way, and I can tell you like as a beginner, I would start off with a 16 millimeter or a 14 millimeter paddle, something with more touch, and I would tell you to start learning to dink right away. And so I feel like I can better that for the everyday player. Now, the
Yeah.
pros like yourself, I'll let you guys do the pro things.
Yeah, it is interesting, right? Because we as pros view being with a company so much differently than somebody like you would, right? Like I even as a good of an athlete you are, I almost view you now more as a business person, right? Like you're done playing, so now the way you make money is being in business,
Hmm.
right? The way that I make money is by playing pickleball.
Hmm.
And so for me, playing with a certain paddle, most of it, obviously, like the amount of money that I get is important. But number one thing is, do I like this paddle? Do I really believe that I can win with this paddle? Right? And I'm sure for you, there's some of that too as well. But I'm not thinking that much aside of the picture of like, oh, like obviously I want to help this paddle sell more. But the way to do so for me, it's to win with it, in my opinion at
Hmm.
least. Um, and obviously when I play with Carbon, that was the one reason I love the paddle. When I switched to Engage, I love the paddle. Then I got to meet the Elliots, and they're really good people that work hard, and so forth. And so for me, having a really good paddle that I truly believe that I can win with is the most important, right? Um, but I'm also at a point in my career now, even though I'm only 24, I'm gonna keep on playing pickleball unless I have all these injuries, hopefully not, right? But I also have to start looking at my stuff more on the business side of things in the long term, kind of like we were talking about
Yeah.
before in the pod, is, doing the short term and having a good paddle is really good. And that should be like maybe 80% of it. But maybe 20% should be a little bit of, okay, what's my future with this company going to uh, look like
Hmm.
later on in my years doing pickleball, right?
Hmm.
And so that's like almost two perspectives of looking at it, right? Um, but tell me for you, so your paddle is coming out in a couple weeks. You mentioned we don't know yet for sure.
Hmm.
Um, but for somebody like me, I like to play with short handles paddles because I truly believe that I'm more of a pickleball player now, and that's the standard, than a tennis player. The tennis players come in and they like to play with long handle paddles because it feels more like a tennis racket.
Hmm.
So how does that translate to somebody like you coming from football? Like do you not care too much about it? Is it just whatever feels right in your hand? Do you like to have a shorter handle because it feels like you're closer to the ball, which could translate into being, maybe catching a football? You get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. You know, a lot of these questions I don't even have the answer to because like I'm still learning. I'm learning what balance points are and what's the right handle. I just know over the last year I've been playing with a longer handle and a elongated face, and so for me I just naturally gravitate to it, and so I've been doing that over the last I guess year, and so that's just kind of where I've gravitated. I haven't thought about like the science and all that just yet, which I guess as I get better and really study the game, that's something I should probably look at. But because this is kind of the first ever run at it, I'm kind of just figuring it all out. But it's a fun journey, and I've learned so much, but I don't really know. I don't know.
Yeah, and you'll know the more you play, right? The better you get,
Yeah.
the more things you try out. I know I'm really good friends with Zane Navratil, and I know he's always basically working on different paddles with Pro XR. He always has some sort of prototype that
Hmm.
he might be practicing with, just to really figure out what's next for him, right? Um, that said, that's really all I got for you. If there's anything you want to add, ask, say before I thank all my sponsors, go ahead, and we love to have you, bro. It was really a pleasure.
Man, I've had a blast, man. It's been a long time, and I feel like we could probably still talk for another 3 hours.
I know that's just us, though.
Yeah. Uh, well, first off, you were drafted by an MLP by what, the Black
Yeah,
Bears?
I'm with the Black Bears and the Challenger.
Yeah,
Yes.
congratulations.
Thanks, brother.
I know that you and Rafa, did he get drafted there as well?
Yeah, he got drafted first as the number 10th pick. Then I got drafted back to back, so I'm number 11th. And then we have two amazing girls. One of them was Amanda Hendry.
Okay.
She's a lefty, so you would dig that. And I'll be playing mixed with her because Rafa's a lefty, so that wouldn't work out really well.
Right.
And then we actually got a fourth round steal, which was Emily Ackerman. I don't know how she was still there. She's actually with Pro XR as well.
Right.
And she's a G. I mean, she's got like sick hands. So she's gonna be playing with Rafa. I'll play with Amanda, and then luckily for all of us, like the team owners, the coach Jason Perry, the GM Jimmy Miller. I don't know if you know Jimmy, but they're all
Podcaster?
the podcaster.
I almost
Yeah,
wore a Black Bear shirt today because I know Jimmy
yeah,
pretty well. And do the Pickler guys also own?
yeah. Jorge
Yeah.
owns
So
part of it.
those are the homies.
Yeah, exactly. So being able to have that sort of ownership in your team, like I just feel extremely blessed and lucky, honestly, because it hasn't always been the case where everyone in the team, whether it's players or GMs, coaches, or whatever, are as involved in it as the Black Bears are.
Hmm.
And they're also known to be one of the teams that win the most, right? Back in 2022, they won 2 MLPs out of the 3. And the MLP that I won was beating them in the final. So they won twice, and then they were runner up the third time. And then last year, I think they made it to one finals again. So it's one of the best teams there's ever been. So I'm really, really happy to be on it.
That's awesome. Congrats. So, can you explain to me how does that work with teams? Because some teams last year were in I guess the Premier League,
Mm-hmm.
and then now they're in Challenger League and vice versa. How does that work?
Yeah. So last year they did 2 things. So they had 2 seasons. The first season was gonna have 12 teams in the. Sorry, is it 12? Yeah, 12 teams in the Premier, and then 12 in the Challenger. And then they were in the second season they were going to flip flop that, and then they were going to grab the best 12 teams of both for Premier, and then they were going to do the same thing for Challenger, and that's how they were going to decide who was Premier and who was Challenger for the 2024 season. I'm not sure why, but things ended up changing a little bit, and now I think there's 12 teams in Premier, And to get into Premier, I'm pretty sure they had to had a bid to see who was going to pay the most to be in Premier. Now, I could
Mm.
be wrong. I don't know, but I think that's what I heard. And then the teams that didn't ended up going to Challenger.
Hmm.
So basically, I think it was like a like a play to win sort of thing. So sorry, pay to win sort of thing. So if you paid X amount of money to be in Premier for the 2024 and so forth season, maybe 3 years, I don't know, then you would be in Premier, and if you didn't, then you'd be in Challenger.
So whoever's got the most money is going to be in Premier, pretty much.
I think that's what it was. Yeah.
That's some bullshit. Uh, my last question is a
Yeah.
juicy one here. Okay, I need you to spill the tea if you're able to, or
Okay, let's hear it.
keep it PG if you need, whatever.
Well,
So I read this morning. I think it's what the Utah. What's the team?
Utah Black Diamonds.
Black Diamonds.
Okay.
So Tyson
Yeah.
McGuffin was drafted to them. Apparently, from what I hear, he was like, "There's no way, Jose, I'm playing for them with Tyler Loong. Is that how you say his name? Tyler Loong.
Title Loon. Yeah.
What's so a 50 bag and a trade to whatever team he went to? Um, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, okay. Well, I'll try to be as transparent as possible while keeping it, PG. But basically, so I believe Connor Purdue is the owner of Utah.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know exactly how the bidding worked when they were doing the teams, but he ended up getting Tyson, in my opinion, for the amount of money or points that he cost. It was a really, really good first pick. I think Tyson is good at every single event, right? So you're getting your value in men's, mixed, and singles.
Yeah.
Um, what was interesting to me is that he spent the least amount of money on the first pick, but he also got the very last pick of the team, which was Alex Strong, which that tells me he also spent the least amount of money on Alex.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So he overall, I would say that he spent the littlest amount of money to build his own team or points. I don't really know how it works.
Mm-hmm.
That said, I think it was Tyson, then Callie went, and then Tyler was the third pick.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I believe that Tyler and Connor are pretty close. I think they're both Utah people, right? And Tyler has always been extremely loyal to the PPA.
Mm-hmm.
I'm playing with Tyler. I'm good friends with Tyler. Now, everyone knows that I don't know if it was Tyler, but Jimmy and Tyler podcast, some things were said maybe about Tyson, maybe not of Tyson, maybe about the dynamic of, whatever Tyson was doing. I know one of the things that they brought up was this picture of Tyson at the airport, and then he was just walking around normally, and his wife was carrying all the bags. That's what it was told. I never seen it. I don't know. And some other things were said, and Tyson didn't like that.
Mm-hmm.
What I also believe is that Tyler tried to reach out to Tyson and, basically saying like, hey man, like, let's just squash the beef. I don't have anything against you. Let's just play together and, try to win. I think we have a good team. And Tyson never even responded to that. So I believe that Tyson's request was, I want to be traded to a different team or have Tyler traded to a different team. But if you trade me, as in Tyson, I only want to go to these three teams. So I don't know exactly why, but I think the three teams that he chose were either the ones with the most amount of money or maybe the ones that he thought had the best chance of winning. So he wanted to be transferred to these three teams that he just wanted to be in. But then once the trade happened, which I think Jay was a fourth pick, so you're trading a first pick for a fourth pick, and then this team ended up paying another $50,000 to the Utah to give Connor away, I believe. I mean, sorry, to give Jay away, and then again, I could be a little bit wrong. So now Orlando has Federico, Vivian, Paris, and Tyson, which is a crazy, crazy team. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how I feel about it. I think Tyson. I believe that Tyson has somewhat of beef with a lot of players, which I don't really understand why. Like I get along with everyone for the most part. Like nobody, I don't have an issue with anybody, and so I think the teams that he would have wanted to go on were very limited because I don't think he wants to play with Leia or being Leia's team, and I think there's other people out there. So yeah, he ended up getting traded to Orlando. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm not aware of any of this because I'm not kind of in that circle, so I don't know what's going on. I just
Yeah.
saw the news, and Tyson is he's a Seahawk fan, so I met him probably I guess right around 2 years ago, and we become buddies. I talk to him pretty frequently, and
Hmm.
I just when I saw the news this morning, I was like, "Dang, Tyson really just pulled like a Eli Manning on us." You just say, "No, I'm not going to this team.
Yeah.
Trade me." But you know,
Yeah, no, it is just
wow.
interesting. Like I said, I don't have any issues with Tyson. I don't know if he has any issues with me. I know back then, um, we were at a tournament where me and Zane played together. We ended up playing Tyson and James Ignatowicz for the fifth place,
Mm,
and we ended up winning that match. But there was a shot where Tyson hit a ball like really hard on my chest. I have a clip of it too. And as I was swinging, I said never, and I basically hit a winner. And then they complained to the ref a little bit, and then he went into his podcast and talked about it a little bit. Um, and so it became kind of a thing, but everyone eventually forgets about it, right? So, and then I will also say that maybe a couple of weeks afterwards, he ended up sending me a DM saying, "Hey man, like sorry, I should have not said that stuff about you or whatever. We're boys, or boys will be boys," is one of his sayings. And I was like, "Yeah, man, is that an issue? Like, I don't care
yeah.
that much." And so, yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting. Now I think Orlando has an even better team. I think Tyson's super, super, super valuable in an MLP team. I think Jay is very good, but there's a reason why Tyson went first in the team and Jay went fourth. But yeah, and then good for Connor Porteau, and then I think he made another 50,000 for trading Tyson. So good for him.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow.
But
Mm.
yeah, awesome. Thanks, brother. I also want to say thank you to my sponsors, Head Shoes, Engage Pickleball for my paddle, and Stack Clothing based out of Utah. And yeah, man, here it is. And thanks again.